right, good morning. Thank you for coming. We are here, we're going to talk about efficient automation, execution, bringing effective operations. My name is Sen Gupta. I'm with ARC, Senior Consultant. And, I've been in the business for about 26 years. Started off as a project engineer for Mobe Chemical, if anybody remembers that name. Worked for Honeywell for a few years. Small company called Signet for SCADA. Did some work with Invensys. Did some work on my own as well. Another personal note, I hate public speaking, so this should be interesting. Anybody else hate public speaking? Am I? Okay, good. I got some other people with me. So today, you got myself speaking. Then I'm going to be followed up by a fellow named Cliff Peterson. He's a consultant, has his own consulting business. And then Yahya Nazar from Dow Chemical Company is also going to be speaking with us. After that, we'll have a Q&A session. Okay, so usually the big guy that gets all the attention in automation, especially in North America, is migrations. And in a migration, you spend a whole bunch of money, throw a whole bunch of resources at it, and what you end up with is a new old system. You've taken all the risk out of the project by saying, okay, we want the controls to act the same. We want the operations to see the same thing. And what you do is you get a very performant old system. Sometimes you do that because of maintenance issues, but although this is the big guy in the room, this isn't efficient automation. This is just expanding your automation canvas, I like to think of it. So what you're doing is you're bringing in new potential and opening up new opportunities to create more automation for operations execution. So what is efficient automation? Well, probably one of the first things we've got to do as a group is we need an open, honest assessment of where we're at. All right? You need to understand what your technology can and cannot do. You need to understand what your company, your organization can and cannot do. Where are your training deficiencies? You need to understand your company culture. You know, is your company culture, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Is your company culture, we've been doing it this way for 20 years, why should we change? Those are important things to understand because when you're trying to move automation along, you're going to get a lot of resistance, and you've got to understand that you're going to work with that. Something that ARC has done, we had a customer come to us and ask, hey, look, we've seen all this new technology coming out. We need an outside, unbiased opinion about where we're at. And so they brought us into the plant. We had a nice, we sat down with them, went over what they were doing, some of their processes, looked at the culture, and they were very pleased with the work we had done. But the important thing is, a lot of times when you're working with that system year after year after year, you're too close to the system to understand where your real deficiencies are. Another thing that you need for effective automation is you need to understand where you're going. You need to understand where the business is going, because the business is what's paying the way, right? And that's really your customer. So the business goals needs to be the automation goals. And the other thing that feeds into that is where technology is going. So if you understand where your business wants to be and where it wants to go, and you understand where the technology trends are going, you can look and see the target that you're trying to hit. And what I'm hoping is a lot of this stuff that I'm going over it's just common sense. But when I took some management courses, I looked at it and said, this is a bunch of common sense, but it took somebody saying it for it really to click. So hopefully you guys see this and already understand this. But the other thing, the next step in coming up with effective automation is having a good plan. And when you come up with an automation plan, you need to speak in terms of business. You need to speak the language of business, because those are the guys who pay for this stuff, right? We all understand that part. but we don't come up with business plans. And when you come up with a business plan, you need a mission statement. And so in your automation groups, do you have a mission statement? Is that mission statement something that the people you serve, your customers, know? Okay? The other thing you need to look at, you need to identify those opportunities in your business in terms of the language of business so that your managers understand, so that the C group, CEOs and whatnot, they understand what's going on and where you're going and how you can help them. If possible, you need a financial projection. Of course, they're always about money. You need to understand what the capital outlay might be, what the benefits are. The other thing you need to identify is who's on your team. When you look at these startups, they have these advisory boards, and they pull in a bunch of people that aren't working in their business. I think automation groups need to do the same thing. You need to pull in an advisory group in operations, maybe in finance, people that can give you advice about where to take your automation business within your own company. You also need to identify your players. Maybe you identify roles. Usually we tend to default and say, well, my department is my players. Well, you need to identify them, and you need to identify their roles and how important that is. Okay? And some of this the vendors can help with. Some of this outside people can help with as well. But a lot of this, if you get buy-in from your management, they can help you with this as well. The other thing I'd like to note is that effective automation is incremental. We usually think in terms of big projects. But effective automation, like I said, big projects gives you a canvas to work with. It's up to the guys at the plant to utilize it incrementally. You work your plan, right? So what you want to do is have an organization that's not capital focused. For example, some organizations are set up very well this way, so they have a person assigned to the unit. He's an expense, and he's working day to day with operations to make it better. Some organizations don't do this. Some organizations use a project mentality. And so if you use a project mentality, you don't get incremental change, because now you've got to get justification for somebody to charge to a project, and you don't get the benefit that you would from an incremental execution of automation. Whereas you'll get the large improvements, but you'll get this step change, and you'll miss opportunities as a business. The other thing that's important, I mentioned culture before. Your corporate culture around automation is key. Peter Drucker says that culture eats strategy for business. So if you have the best plan, but the worst culture, you will fail. And it's important to understand you play to your culture. So to sum this up, really simple. Effective automation is a journey. You got to know where you are, because you can't get directions if you don't know where you're at. You need to know where you're going. You need a plan to get there. And you need to take it one step at a time. I think there's a major petrochemical company. They have a 20-year plan for their automation. I don't know how they get that far out. That's a long ways for me. I'm not, 20 years from now, I'm looking at retirement. So, but the fact they even have that plan says a lot about their corporate culture. And I think if we can get that throughout your company and your organization, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, what are you hoping to do? How does that coincide with the business plan? That's a big deal. And there's some technology trends that you need to be aware of. Here's some things that are coming up. Remote services, cloud services, that's been a big focus of this forum. Predictive analytics. One of the things I'm following is cognitive computing. I think that's really exciting. And of course, smart field devices and wireless have been coming around for a while. But we have to understand that technology is just a tool. You got to understand what you're trying to accomplish and then find the tool that fits, right? That whole adage about when you're a hammer, everything's a nail, right? We want to get outside of that. So following up, we've got a couple methodologies that the speakers will be talking about, Open O&M and ISA 106, and they'll broaden it and make it a bit more applicable. Be thinking about questions for them as they come up and speak. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Cliff Peterson up to the podium.